Celine stepped into her sleek apartment, the door clicking softly behind her. The city lights glimmered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but the warmth of home felt cold tonight. She was tired, yes, but mostly anxious. She could feel it before she even saw him. Dante Rossi leaned against the doorway, his dark eyes sharp, a storm brewing behind them. His tailored suit did nothing to soften the aura of danger he carried. If anything, it amplified it. "Celine," he said, voice low but rigid. "Why are you coming home so late?" The words weren't just a question. They were a warning, a declaration, a claim. She swallowed hard, heart hammering. "I had a meeting, Dante. It ran late." His eyes narrowed and the faintest smirk, almost predatory, curved on his lips. "A meeting?" he repeated, stepping closer until she could feel the heat radiating from him. "Or were you elsewhere?" Celine's breath caught. His possessiveness always frightened her, but tonight it carried something else, a tension that made her pulse race in a way she hadn't expected. She had seen glimpses of it before, in fleeting touches or smoldering stares, but now it was raw, unfiltered. "I was at the office, Dante," she whispered, keeping her tone steady despite the flutter of nerves. He took another step, closing the distance until she could feel the hardness of his chest against her arm. His fingers brushed hers when he reached for the folder she carried, and the spark that shot through her body made her gasp silently. "You're mine, Celine," he said, voice rough, full of dark intensity. "And I don't like it when anyone, especially you, runs off without telling me." Her eyes widened, heart pounding, caught between fear and something undeniably electric. His hand lingered just a moment too long, brushing the back of her wrist as if testing her. Celine realized with a mixture of dread and thrill that she had never truly seen Dante like this. Jealous, intense, dangerous, and impossibly close. And she couldn't look away. "You'll tell me next time, won't you?" His tone softened just slightly, but the possessive edge remained. "Yes," she breathed, knowing that a single word had already sealed her place in his dangerous, irresistible orbit. The next morning, Celine arrived at the office, still feeling the ghost of Dante's smoldering gaze on her. Every step toward her desk reminded her of the possessive tension from last night. She tried to focus on work, but her mind kept wandering to the dangerous man who claimed her. Dante appeared at the doorway of her office without knocking. His presence filled the room, commanding attention and stirring heat she couldn't hide. His dark eyes scanned her, sharp and calculating, like he could read every thought she tried to suppress. "You think I didn't notice you yesterday?" he asked, voice low, almost a growl. "Coming home late, avoiding me. Do you enjoy testing me, Celine?" She swallowed, feeling a shiver trace her spine. "It wasn't intentional, Dante. The meeting ran longer than expected," she explained, keeping her tone calm, though her pulse betrayed her. He stepped closer, closing the small space between them. "I don't care about meetings," he said, brushing a finger lightly along the side of her jaw, making her shiver. "I care about you. And I don't like anyone, getting close to you, not even for a moment." Celine's breath hitched. There was danger in his words, but also a raw, possessive desire she couldn't deny. His hand lingered a heartbeat too long, warm and demanding, and she felt herself leaning in just slightly, though she knew she shouldn't. "You're obsessive," she whispered, half scolding, half breathless. He smirked, eyes darkening. "Call it what you want. I call it claiming what's mine." For a moment they just stood there, the tension crackling like electricity in the air. Celine realized she'd never felt more exposed, yet more alive than under his intense gaze. Finally, he released her, stepping back but leaving the promise of his presence lingering. "Remember this, Celine," he said softly, voice dropping to a dangerous murmur. "No one will touch you. No one will even look at you, without my knowledge. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes," she whispered, heart pounding. Dante's lips curved in a faint, possessive smile before he left, leaving her trembling, both fearful and longing for the dangerous man who had claimed her. Later that evening, Celine's phone buzzed with a message from Dante. "Dinner. Tonight. My place. Be on time." Her pulse quickened. The invitation was simple, but the underlying command made her heart race. She dressed carefully, choosing a sleek black dress that hugged her curves, knowing he would notice. When she arrived, Dante opened the door before she could knock. His dark eyes roamed her from head to toe, taking in every detail. A faint smirk played on his lips. "You look irresistible," he murmured, his voice low and smooth. The way he said it sent a shiver down her spine. He led her inside, the apartment bathed in warm, golden light. Dinner was laid out elegantly, yet the air between them was charged with something electric. something neither of them could ignore. Celine sat, hands folded neatly on her lap, but her body was alert, aware of every inch of him as he poured wine into her glass. Dante's fingers brushed hers when he handed it to her, and the touch lingered just long enough to make her stomach twist in anticipation. "You're late again, you know," he said, not angry this time, but with a dangerous tease in his tone. "Do you enjoy testing me?" Celine bit her lip, fighting a blush. "I'm here now, aren't I?" she replied, trying to sound playful. He leaned closer, his gaze locking on hers, heat radiating from him. "Yes, and I like that you are. But don't forget, my patience has limits." The words sent a thrill through her, mingling fear with desire. She realized how intoxicating it was to be claimed and challenged by a man like Dante. Dinner passed with teasing glances and subtle touches, each one charged with unspoken promises. His hand brushed hers at the table more than once, each time making her heart flutter. As the meal ended, Dante stood, towering over her, voice dropping to a low, intimate murmur. "Celine, sit closer." Her breath hitched as she obeyed, drawn to him despite herself. The distance between them vanished, leaving only the heat of their unspoken desires, and the dangerous pull of a man who would not let her go. The next morning, Celine arrived at the office still feeling the afterglow of last night's private dinner. Her thoughts were interrupted almost immediately by the arrival of a new client, a young, confident man with a charming smile that lingered a little too long on her. "Celine," he said smoothly, extending a hand, "I've heard so much about you. I hope we can work closely together." Celine's pulse quickened, a mixture of polite professionalism and subtle apprehension stirring inside her. Something about him was off. Her phone buzzed with a message before she could respond. "Leave him alone, or I will deal with it myself. D." Her lips parted slightly, a shiver running down her spine. Dante. Already jealous, already possessive, even when he wasn't there. Minutes later, Dante strode into the office, all tailored suits and dangerous authority. His eyes locked on Celine, then flicked to the man smiling at her. A low growl slipped from his throat. "Celine," Dante's voice was smooth but edged with steel. "Is this necessary?" Celine's heart thudded. She tried to intervene, but Dante stepped closer to the client, his presence suffocating. The man's confident smile faltered under Dante's intense gaze. "Oh, Dante, it's just business," Celine began, but Dante cut her off with a sharp glance. "Business?" he said, stepping even closer, heat radiating off him. "Everything is business when it involves her?" The air between them crackled, electric and suffocating. Celine felt the magnetic pull of Dante's possessiveness, the thrill of his jealousy stirring something dark and erotic in her chest. I didn't mean," she started, but Dante's hand brushed hers as he reached past the client to adjust her papers. The contact was fleeting but charged, sending shivers up her arm. The client's charm faltered completely, and he excused himself awkwardly. Dante turned to Celine, his dark eyes softening just enough to be dangerous. "You belong here," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And only here. Do you understand?" "Yes," Celine whispered, breathless, caught between fear, desire, and an undeniable attraction she could no longer hide. Dante's smirk was possessive, triumphant, and deeply erotic, the kind that promised both danger and desire in equal measure. Celine lingered late at the office, organizing documents for Dante's upcoming deals. Her curiosity had been building for weeks, glimpses of the man beneath the ruthless Mafia Boss. Tonight, she stumbled across a folder marked Private, Dante Rossi. Against her better judgment, she opened it. Inside were photos, letters, and documents revealing a past she had never imagined. A woman, someone Dante had loved deeply, someone who had betrayed him. Her chest tightened as she read the heartbreak, the fury, the raw vulnerability that Dante had hidden behind his cold exterior. A sudden presence made her jump. Dante leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching her with that unreadable expression. "You shouldn't be going through that," he said softly, though there was a dangerous edge to his tone. I just wanted to understand," Celine whispered, closing the folder, but he stepped closer, his gaze intense, almost consuming. "Understand what?" he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That I've been hurt? That I protect what's mine, obsessively?" Celine's heart raced, a mix of fear and something else, desire, fascination. There was a vulnerability there she hadn't seen before, and it made the air between them thick with tension. I'm not just a boss," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're complicated, dangerous, and tempting." Dante's lips curved into a smirk that was all predator and promise. He closed the distance until his chest nearly pressed against hers. Tempting, huh? He said, his voice a low growl. You have no idea what happens to those who tempt me, Celine. Her breath hitched. The electric charge between them was undeniable, stirring a fire she couldn't ignore. For a moment the office felt smaller, the world reduced to just him. His heat, his proximity, the danger he radiated. Dante, she murmured, almost pleading, almost daring. His hand lingered on her wrist, fingers pressing lightly, possessively, and she felt herself lean in, both afraid and unwilling to resist. I've always been this way, Celine, he said softly, dark eyes locked on hers. And now, you know my truth. The question is, can you handle it? Celine swallowed, heart pounding, realizing that the man she was falling for was far more dangerous, and far more irresistible, than she had ever imagined. Celine's heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she left the office late that evening. Her mind was still swirling with Dante's revelations from the previous night, but she tried to focus on the mundane, walking to her car, ignoring the lingering thrill of his possessive gaze. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind her. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her into a dark alley. Celine gasped, struggling, but the grip was firm and merciless. You shouldn't be out alone, a voice hissed, low and threatening. Before she could react further, Dante appeared, moving faster than she thought possible. One swift motion and the attacker was on the ground, groaning. Dante stood over him, chest heaving, dark eyes flashing with danger and fury. Are you hurt? He demanded, his voice sharp yet laced with concern. Celine shook her head, too breathless to speak. He closed the distance, his hand brushing her cheek, warm and possessive. The electric contact made her stomach twist, her body aching with a mix of fear and longing. You should never be alone when I can't protect you, Dante murmured, his lips dangerously close to hers. Do you understand me, Celine? Yes, she whispered, her voice trembling. Dante's hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her closer. The heat between them was undeniable, and for a moment the danger of the night vanished, replaced by an intoxicating closeness. You're mine, he said softly, almost a growl, his forehead resting against hers. And no one touches what's mine. Celine felt a shiver run through her, a delicious combination of fear and desire. She wanted to pull away to keep things professional, but every fiber of her body was drawn to him, to the danger, the intensity, the raw possessiveness he exuded. Dante stepped back slightly, his dark eyes scanning her face as if reading her soul. Stay close to me from now on, he ordered, voice low, commanding, seductive. Celine nodded, knowing she would never truly resist him. Not after tonight. Not after everything. As they walked back to her car, his hand brushing hers more than once, she realized with a thrill-laced fear that her life, and her heart, were no longer entirely her own. The next morning, Celine arrived at the office to find Dante waiting in his usual spot. Hands in his pockets, dark eyes locked on hers like a predator tracking his prey. Celine, he said, his voice low, almost dangerous, we need to talk. Her stomach tightened. She knew this tone, it was the calm before a storm. Last night, you saw what I'm willing to do to protect you, Dante continued, stepping closer. But this isn't just about me. It's about your life. Your choices. My world, it's dangerous. Celine felt her pulse quicken. She had sensed the danger, but hearing him admit it so plainly made her breath catch. I can keep you safe, he said, his hand brushing hers ever so slightly, sending a jolt through her. But only if you accept one thing, if you choose me fully. No hesitation. No second guessing. You stay by my side, Celine, or you leave and I can't protect you anymore. Her heart pounded. The ultimatum was clear, and terrifying. She wanted him, craved him, but the thought of giving herself entirely to Dante Rossi, a man as dangerous as he was irresistible, made her tremble. Dante. She began, words failing her under the intensity of his gaze. He leaned closer, eyes smoldering, fingers brushing her cheek. Celine, listen to me. I don't ask. I don't negotiate. This isn't a choice for me, it's a command. And my patience has limits. The electricity between them was unbearable. Fear and desire mingled in her chest, leaving her dizzy. She realized the truth, she had already given him her heart, whether she admitted it or not. Yes, she whispered finally, trembling, eyes locked on his. I choose you. Dante's smirk was slow, possessive, and deeply erotic. He pulled her closer, just enough for her to feel the full heat of his body against hers. Good, he murmured, brushing his lips just against her temple. Because from now on, you're mine. Completely. Celine's breath hitched, both terrified and exhilarated, knowing her life, and her heart, were irreversibly entwined with a man who was as dangerous as he was intoxicating. The rain tapped softly against the windows as Celine stood in Dante's private study, her arms wrapped around herself. Choosing him had felt inevitable, but now that the words had been spoken, the weight of it pressed heavily on her chest. Dante watched her from across the room, his usual control fractured. He removed his jacket, loosening his tie as if the air itself had grown too thick. "You're afraid," he said quietly. Celine met his gaze. "Wouldn't you be?" she whispered. "Your world is dangerous." "And you?" She hesitated, then exhaled. "You don't love halfway." A slow, humorless smile crossed his lips. "No, I don't." He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. The restraint in him was palpable, almost more intense than aggression. "I've wanted you since the first day you walked into my office," Dante admitted, voice low and raw. "I fought it, controlled it. But every time you came home late, every time another man looked at you," his jaw tightened. "It made me realize how deep this goes." Celine's breath caught. "Your jealousy is fear," he finished. "Fear of losing you. Fear of trusting again." His eyes softened, dark and unguarded. "You matter to me, Celine. More than power. More than control." The confession shattered something inside her. She stepped forward before she could lose her nerve, placing her hand against his chest. His heart was pounding, fast, strong, real. "I'm not running," she said softly. "But I need to know that when you look at me, you see more than something you own." Dante covered her hand with his, pressing it firmly against him. "I see my weakness," he murmured. "And my future." Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling. The moment stretched, charged, intimate, trembling with unspoken desire. "I'm yours," Celine whispered. "But only if you're mine too." Dante's arms slid around her, protective and reverent. "Then we belong to each other," he said quietly. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, Celine knew the real danger wasn't the mafia world. It was how deeply she was already in love with him. Celine sensed something was wrong the moment Dante didn't answer her call. The penthouse felt too quiet, the kind of silence that crawled under her skin. She moved slowly, heart pounding, when voices drifted from the hallway, low, urgent, unfamiliar. Then she heard his name. "You shouldn't have brought her into this," a man said coldly. Celine froze. Peering around the corner, she saw Dante standing across from Marco, one of his most trusted men. The air was thick with tension, weapons barely concealed, loyalty hanging by a thread. "She was never supposed to matter," Marco continued. "You're weak now." Dante's expression hardened, his voice lethal. "Say her name again and you won't leave this room." That's when Marco moved. Everything happened at once. Shouting, the scrape of a gun being drawn. Celine gasped, the sound betraying her presence. Marco turned toward her, eyes gleaming with something cruel. "There she is," he sneered. "The reason the king lost his crown." Before Celine could react, Dante was between them, pulling her against his chest. A gunshot rang out, not at her but at Marco's shoulder, sending him crashing to the floor. Dante didn't hesitate. "Take him," he ordered his men, voice calm but furious. "He's done." As Marco was dragged away, Celine clung to Dante, trembling. His arms locked around her, tight and unyielding, as if letting go wasn't an option anymore. "You lied to me," she whispered, fear and hurt twisting in her chest. "You said I'd be safe." Dante lifted her chin, eyes burning with guilt and something darker, rage at himself. "I didn't know it would come from inside," he said. "But I swear to you, this ends tonight." His thumb brushed her lip, the touch gentle yet possessive. "I won't lose you. Not to betrayal. Not to anyone." Celine searched his face, realizing the truth. Loving Dante meant standing in the crossfire of his world. But when he pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in like she was the only thing keeping him grounded, she knew she wasn't leaving. "Do whatever you have to," she whispered. "Just come back to me." Dante's jaw tightened. "I always do." And as he walked away to finish what had begun, Celine understood. The most dangerous thing in this world wasn't betrayal. It was how fiercely he loved her. Dawn broke slowly over the city, pale light spilling into the penthouse as Celine stood by the window, waiting. Every sound made her turn. Every second without Dante felt like a lifetime. When the door finally opened, she exhaled sharply. Dante stepped inside, jacket discarded, shirt rumpled, a faint bruise darkening his jaw. His eyes found her instantly, and softened in a way no one else ever saw. "It's over," he said quietly. Her knees nearly gave out with relief. She crossed the room without thinking, pressing herself into his chest. His arms wrapped around her, strong and unyielding, holding her as if the world might try to take her away again. "No one will ever threaten you again," Dante murmured against her hair. "I ended it. Completely." Celine pulled back just enough to look at him. "And what about us?" Dante lifted her chin, his gaze intense, unwavering. There was never a question. His thumb traced her lower lip, slow and deliberate. "You are not my secretary anymore. You are not something I hide behind contracts and walls." She felt the weight of his words settle deep in her chest. "You are mine," he continued, voice low, dangerous, reverent. "Not because I demand it, but because you chose me. Because you stand beside me." Celine's heartbeat thundered. "And you're mine," she said softly. "Not just the boss. Not the king. The man." A rare smile touched his lips, dark, possessive, undone. He pulled her closer, forehead resting against hers. "Then this is my claim," he whispered. "Not in blood. Not in fear. In trust." Outside, the city moved on, unaware that an empire had shifted, not through violence but through devotion. As Dante guided her toward the bedroom, protective hand at her lower back, Celine knew her life would never be simple again. But it would be powerful, dangerous, and irrevocably his. And for the first time she didn't fear the darkness, because she ruled it beside him.